is up, everybody? I'm Jeff Lund, and this is the Mediocre Alaskan podcast, where we are intolerant and weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. Talking with Ketchikan artist and resident Matt Hamilton. The guy's artwork and his creative level is just off the charts. He has unmatched charisma. The guy just has a massive heart, and he's just a good person to know, a great asset to the community of Ketchikan. We're talking about the creative process. We're talking about getting over the naysayers. We're talking about ideas. We're talking about marketing yourself. All that stuff is coming up, as well as some family history and some life lessons about the way that you live your life. That's all coming up next in episode 46 of the Mediocre Alaskan. Make sure you go to themediocrealaskan.com for other content and for other podcast episodes. Here we go with Matt.
When I was here for dinner a couple of months ago, you said that you didn't consider yourself an artist at first.
No, not one bit.
And that was one of the biggest things that I have so many questions just about the creative process. But that was the thing that kind of stuck out about calling yourself an artist so that you can give yourself permission to go forward. How was getting over that and adopting it and getting after it?
I think having that imposter syndrome where you're just lying to yourself all the time, where you're like, I'm doing it, I'm really doing it, but then you have to tell everybody that you're not doing it. And then once you start moving into the realm of getting paid for those things, you immediately go back into your shell of when you were a kid, when you're like, no, I'm not an artist, no, I'm not an artist, and then you end up not getting paid for what you're worth. And one of my big things has always been, try to treat everybody really well. And so it's not in my nature to charge for crazy amounts of money for art. And I always would laugh at people that would, put big price tags on art. And then I started realizing how much time they were putting into it and the whole process.
I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I can't remember, something Vincent. It was a Jay Ferrugia Renegade Radio podcast, and it's something Vincent. He's a Highlands athlete, does all the Highland games. But also does some podcasts and stuff. And he was saying that your episode 100 is going to be way better than the first one.
Yeah.
So you have to get that first one done. Some people are so worried about the first thing being perfect that they don't go and go through that process of growth. So when you look back at some of your first drawings, sketches, things that sold, do you look back and see how far you've improved, or how do you get through this is not going to be as good as it will be later?
Yeah.
How do you get yourself to keep producing if it's not going to be perfect?
When I see old art that somebody has on their wall that's mine, I kind of think, why the hell did you buy that thing? It's it's off kilter. It's got this. It's got that. My lettering isn't perfect on that. But it's interesting because people have talked to me about the art that they still have hanging on their wall from high school that I did, and I was like, please do never post that. Never post it online. Do not let anybody know you have that. And I just have this this weird thing about it where I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm always talking to my wrestlers about it, but like when they show up, I always tell them, your job is to be bad at this, and I'll let you know when it's time to be good. And being an artist, you don't really have that person telling you that. You have to kind of grow into it yourself. And there's been many times when I've caught myself thinking that I'm ripping somebody off, and then they've turned around and sold it for twice as much. And I just shake my head going, damn it. But it's weird because I think the process is get done with this piece right now so I can move on to the next piece. And there's some things that I'm really, really proud of, and I think that I would never grow old of it, and I'm done with it by the time I'm done with that project. I see something that I'm like, oh, this is going to be it. This is it. This is a big money. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting to have so many people out there, like encouraging you. But I think it starts off with like your family and friends. They see you as that investment, and it was like if I keep going with this, maybe he won't sell meth. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the hardest things to do is knowing that there's going to be failure, and we kind of want to insulate ourselves from failure. We want to insulate ourselves from feeling bad or feeling insecure, and so I have this passion that I want to write or I want to draw, I want to be creative, but it's going to be too much for me. What if the first one I put out there people don't like? How do you get over people not liking what you do or your art, or it didn't turn out the way you wanted? How do you get over that and push through it rather than quit?
I'm pretty stubborn. Like, I'm just pretty stubborn, and I've always had this, like, screw you, watch this, like, in the back of my head all the time. When somebody says you can't do it, you know, Mighty Ducks is one of my favorite movies of all time. And for any kid that grew up in that era that watched it, you're just like, oh yeah, I can do anything. I can do anything, because that's what all the movies were based on. There was never any heartache in those movies, and so like that's what you grew up on. And then I've realized that I have some talent and I have a lot of strength. And so when it came to wrestling and all that stuff, I was like yeah, it's like Mighty Ducks, man. Like, losers are supposed to win. I'm a loser, like, and it's always kind of like, it's always had that, like, that feel to it of just like, do I really belong here? And it becomes, screw you, I totally belong here. Like, I'm gonna make you regret showing up today. Yeah. Like, and when it comes to my art, it's a challenge every time, because I look back on the stuff that I've done in the past that I shake my head at, but at the same time I know that I'm nothing without those moments. And I think my grandmother really helped train me on doing that stuff, where she would give me these tasks to draw things, and it was like a weird it was a weird situation, because I had this grandma that had a very, like, flowy, like, artistic way. Like, she has this picture here that it's a picture of this ram that she did, but she would do it on, like, pizza boxes. She would do it on weird textures and all that stuff. And so she would be giving me drawing lessons, but it would never be on the same material. It'd be on, like, a t-shirt or whatever. And so just find a way and make it happen. And so it was like this weird, like, boot campy, like art thing. Yeah. So I got to do it on so many different levels, and see that, like, when you screw up, this is how you fix it. And a lot of times, like, she just let us, we could only draw with pens. Yeah. So it was like, okay, you're gonna screw up. Yeah. It's just how do you make it right?
Do you think you were born with that stubbornness or that tenacity, or is that something that you can develop? Because I think a lot of people, because I wasn't born with that tenacity, this isn't meant for me, and I just have to just do my job and go to work and do the 9-to-5 thing because I'm not creative or I'm not stubborn enough to pursue my passion. Is that something that you just have, or is it something that can be developed?
I think it can be developed, but you have to put yourself in a really, really interesting situations where you deprive yourself of things. If you deprive yourself of materials, money, all of those things. My dad grew up really poor, and I think that's what passed down to me was adapt and overcome. Like, you don't have this, so what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And if you really want it, how do you make it happen? I want to make sure that like my kids grow up with that, and so I'm always like trying to train my daughter how to be bored. That's one of the best things in the world is teaching your kid how to be bored. And people think that's just a skill that comes natural, but if you let a kid just do what they want to do, it's going to get wild. Yeah. But if you structure it in a way that just like, this is how you're not going to get in trouble when we're at a restaurant. We play like the island game where I used to throw a couch cushion on the floor, and it was a piece of paper and a pencil, and she would get rewards of like stuff that not like not candy or anything, but we would like, okay, we're going to go for a walk and go down to the beach today. If you can stay here for 10 minutes and do this. And so my daughter, I was like, you have to be touching the island the whole time. And so I just watch her reinvent the island over and over and over and over again, where she's like taking the case off of it, turning it inside out. She's making, booties out of it, and I scooting around the floor. So that was stuff that my dad, if I wanted something to do, my dad had a thing of scrap wood that he would just give me nails and a hammer and go make something. Mm-hmm. And but when you don't have structure to build off of it, that's when it gets scary.
Yeah. Well, that used to be called like self-sufficiency socially, but now it's all about how other things can entertain me rather than how can I entertain myself, and we're outsourcing that. I think it's pretty sad. You look at being on ferry trips in the Southeast growing up, there was nothing else to keep you entertained except for you, and you're on the boat for 24 hours. So you walk around, play with friends, cribbage or spoons or something like that, but you had to interact with people. But I think that's an important thing to be bored in a productive, creative way.
Well, that's how we find out who we're going to be. Like, there's kids right now that I look at and the wrestlers that I have on my junior high team and high school teams, and 99% of them have turned into the person I thought they were going to be through the conversations I had with them. Yeah. The ones that didn't have the structure at home and all that stuff, I see those guys either fall into that category of like self-sufficient, how do I make this work, or it's all going to fall apart, and all you can do is be there for them, try to be there in the moment and give them a good example to live by. Yeah. But that's it, man. There's so many kids out there that don't know how to deal with boredom, and then it develops into trouble for them because they were never taught how to be bored. Mm-hmm. So all my wrestlers, I talk to them about how it's not the fact that I need somebody big and strong and fast. I need good listeners, and I need you to know that you're going to be uncomfortable. If I can teach you to be uncomfortable, then the rest of life is going to be easy. Mm-hmm. Whether it be the dieting for wrestling or running until feels like your veins are pumping battery acid. Like, it's going to be one of those things, and to push their brains beyond what they believe they can do. Yeah.
I had a journalism student write an article about the success trait, and she talked to teachers and administrators and was trying to reduce what is it when you look at kids who are going to graduate, how do you know, or can you know which of these kids are going to be successful? And everyone said it's not necessarily your GPA. You could be a 2.0 kid, but it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. And it just came back to grit and hard work. And it was how do people, the challenges. You can have a 4.0 student who is entitled and bratty and, doesn't care about the process. Things just came easy. Mm-hmm. And so when you meet adversity, that's going to ruin you. So that was interesting to see, but...
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
It's nice to see the kids get that at an earlier age. They don't have to go through the suffering it's going to take to develop that. But hardest part about teaching.
Yeah, there's. I'm always talking to kids about the success stories. Like, whenever a kid is, getting down on themselves and they're getting ready to go wrestle, we call somebody a buzzsaw, somebody that they're going to be a state champion, and your match is up next with that kid. Mm-hmm. You know that you're gonna get smoked, but I'm trying to instill that this is one of those things that you won the opportunity to go up against this person. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity, and I was like, and they don't make movies about the guy that just lays down.
Nope.
And there's and there's been a couple times where kids have surprised themselves, and that has carried them along the way for years, where it was just whether it be the I've seen when people think of success stories, we're always thinking of the kid that does has the big house, is running for government, has their own business and all that stuff. But that one kid that you can instill that little bit of greatness in, and maybe instead of having a picket fence and all that stuff, they live in a trailer, but the life they had lined up before that point was homeless. Mm-hmm. Was maybe they got enough social skills on those wrestling trips or sporting trips that now they can socialize enough that they can couch surf for a long time and get what their needs met. Mm-hmm. And before that, they were just they were destined to be down stationed out in front of the old library, dreaming of a different life. Mm-hmm. So if I can do that for one kid, then it's game on. Yeah. And people don't see that as a success story. I'm always trying to, when I'm working with my kids that I work with at Community Connections, I'm always trying to get that kid to see the one rung above what they got right now, mm-hmm. and how do we get them there. It's not about getting to the top of the ladder. It's just those little steps in between.
Yeah.
Help improve.
I want to go back to, you were mentioning your family a little bit, and your family has deep roots in Ketchikan. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about just that? 7th generation?
Yeah, 7th generation Ketchikan. My family came from Norway and came over to Ellis Island. We got all that crazy documentation over there, but super intense, hunting, fishing, woods. They'd be very embarrassed of who I am today. You're an artist and you live in a nice cozy house. Yeah. But it was crazy. My family came over and they saw what America had to offer, and they said, no thank you, and we're gonna head back. And they ended up going the long route, going all the way across to Washington. Wow. And over the years and had some family members that ended up staying in the lower 48, and but the ones that came up to Alaska to head over to Russia and then head back to Norway, they saw the glaciers. Mm. They saw what they saw was the fjords back then. It was just the fjords coming through, and they're like, home.
Yeah.
And so that was their one place. They hadn't seen some place that was as beautiful as that. So they got off the boat, and that was the territory of Alaska back then on the old steamships. Mm-hmm. And just stayed. So it was it's pretty neat to have that heritage of doing that.
What about here, as far as locationally? They were in Ketchikan for here we're near Ward Lake right now.
Yeah.
Has it been here? Have they kind of What are some things you know about the family homestead here, and it's grown and it's been in the family for a while, or how's the position?
So they lived in Ketchikan for a long time. Like Amundsen Way is named after my family. That's my mom's side of the family. That's the Amundsens. So Amundsen Way, and there's another street I can't remember. It's named after an uncle in town. But then eventually, town got too big, so they wanted to move out in the country. So they moved to a town called Wacker City, which is Ward Cove. So everything on this side of the bridge was Wacker City by this dude named Wacker.
Nice.
So they moved out here, and there was no bridge. There was a little pulley boat system thing that brought people back and forth, and so they, all their whole lives they're hunting and fishing and all that, and diving, but then my grandfather used to run the mail to all the towns in his little prop plane. And so during World War II, that was his job, was a net island, so they all were over on a net island. And so just kind of this area, they've bounced back and forth all over the place. And so, but yeah, our family's been in this section for a long time, a couple generations.
There's so many different cultures that are here, and so you can have a very strong Norwegian. Petersburg is very Norwegian, has that Norwegian thing. The last time I was here, we talked about the Viking funeral.
Oh yeah.
How important is it that you are a good representative? You said that you would be embarrassment for your ancestors if they looked at you now, because it's all of us. Our great grandmothers are more hardcore than we are now. But as far as the way that you lived your life as this generation, or as the latest, how important is that to you to stay true to, or to stay productive and be a good member of that family? Yeah.
So one of the things that happened last year was my cousin Eric passed away, and when he passed away, it dredged up a lot of things from my childhood. My grandfather, who was the main staple, not just for our family, but for a lot of families in Ketchikan, it was like the go-to for helping people, making things happen. They ran the cannery for decades. Morgo Packing helped run that. So when my grandfather passed away, my cousin Eric and the family members all came together and said, "Hey, we got to do a Viking funeral." So all of us kids built this little rinky-dink Viking ship that was.
It was pretty cool, though. It wasn't.
Well, it was like 10 feet. It was like 10 feet long for my grandfather, and it was like this, sheet, and we painted it, and it was really, really cutesy, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that showed up at that funeral, and man, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Was just watching all these people hold hands around this Viking ship, and it changed my life forever. I saw that, and I was like, that's the life I want to live. I want to see it where people turn out by the hundreds and are willing to walk a mile to get to a funeral. That want to be a part of it, to say goodbye. That's a great life. My cousin Eric passed away suddenly last year, and within 5 minutes I got a text message that said, "Floki, tell us what you need. We'll be in town on this day. Don't start the ship without us." And so I'd already started building. I'd already started planning it out and started making it. And by the time the family members had shown up, I had got the whole body done and all the shields and everything. But it was one of those moments where it started dredging up a lot of memories, and the scaffolding of who I am was built in some of those quick moments that only lasted a couple hours, but forever it was echoed. And so ever since I did that Viking funeral for my cousin Eric, and we all got together and made it happen, I've had so many people that were asking me why, and I gotta tell them, it was just like, it wasn't because he was just a part of our family. Not everyone in our family will get that burial, but it's the life you live. It's the giving more than you ever get, and so I see that in these people that their lives were really affected by that one moment when they saw just this burning ship on the beach and hundreds of people are down there, and just reliving that moment was just like, that's why we're doing it. And it was kind of sad. It was kind of a little weird, because I had this kid that when I walked inside the community club, I had a couple toddies, so I was kind of like, trying to keep myself together, for my cousin's for my family, and this kid is standing there with his mom as I'm walking in, and the kid's just like, "You built that ship?" I was like, "Yeah," and he goes, "How do I get a funeral like that?" And his mom's eyes just like popped wide open, and she was like, "No, do not talk about that." And I go, and I was just like, that's the moment. That was the moment when I was a kid that I had. I was like, how do I get that?
Yeah.
And it was funny, because I go, you gotta be the best version of what you think you can be. Like, give as much as you can, and help the people that can help themselves. And my cousin Eric was that way. My grandfather was that way. My uncle Pete was that way. Those are all, these just juggernauts of love. They just they just love recklessly. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool to have that effect on people. And my garbage man one day saw that the Viking ship wasn't in the garage, and he was like, I'm getting up there in the years, I would set some money aside if you could build me one of those. And it was really cute. Yeah. But I was just like, oh, we kind of have a tradition for our family for doing that, and I don't know. I was like, I could find somebody to build you one, but it's got to come from the people that love you. Yeah. That make it right. And
yeah. Something you got to earn.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to say that I love my garbage man quite yet.
Appreciate the effort.
He's great. He's killing it on the garbage scene. Yeah. But he's it was kind of cute moment where it's like, yeah.
So if you do happen to feel not quite motivated to work, does that kind of kick in a little bit? Like, hey, Matt, you got to do this stuff here. I want to take a week off from the grind. I just want a vacation. Where do you continue to get after it and hustle, but still make sure that you don't burn yourself out?
Man, I just reinvent the hustle. I just got to reinvent it in a different way. I just went on a business trip, and I just hustled the whole time I was down there, and I could have easily turned it into a vacation, but it's weird. My version of a vacation and my wife's version of a vacation look very different. on iTunes, they have if you listen to this, you may like this, or if you like this, you can like this. So what I do is I play a game with myself of just like how I can get myself into, good meals and a good time. And I was at a food court in Boise, and there's this dude that was serving my burger that had a really awesome tattoo. And I was like, man, did you get that tattoo done here? And he was just like, oh yeah, it's down on this street. And I was like, cool. So I went to the tattoo shop, went down there, was checking out the flash art they had on the wall, and showed them some of my art. And they're like, oh man, that's awesome. We'll take some stuff from you. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, if you ever want to come to Alaska, let me know. It'd be cool. And just the offer to go to Alaska, most of these people will never come up here.
They're like, oh, thanks, man. But
thanks, man. But
it takes some
planning. Yeah. But so I asked them, I was like, so where do you guys go? Have breakfast at? And so they're like, oh, we usually go over here. So that was the next place I went to, is this place called the Push and Pour. And it was a really awesome little coffee place. Well, it's in a place called Garden City. It's like the little side shoot that used to be like the redhead stepchild of Boise. But the went there, hung out with those guys, drank coffee and kombucha for a couple hours on my day off I had from training. And then I immediately went over, once they told me that there was a cool little taco truck, like bar, like right down the street. So I went down there, checked it out, and just worked on some of my designs. And while I was working on my designs, there was a guy there that was just like, man, you should design us a poster. And so I designed him a poster of this yard arm, this bar called the Yard Arm. So it's like kind of like a surf bar in Boise, which you'd think would be weird, but huge surf community. Like they all hit the river, and there's like some places where you can like actually ride waves.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's insane. But so going from one place to another, just bouncing off from seeing a guy's tattoo to finding that moment and acknowledging that's what you're doing. That's the hard part. Is like, I'm doing this and I'm committing to this. Like, I like handcuffing myself to an idea and then fighting my way out of it. I take on a lot of jobs that I've never done before, but that's the exciting part of it. And I think that's where you keep the freshness in your art, in life and all that stuff. And so I'm always trying to one up whatever I did last time, just so it stays fresh and it doesn't get stale.
How important are influences in meeting or being around people who also have, it might not be the same thing, but it could be similar sort of attitude toward that? How important is it to surround yourself with people who are also motivated to get after it rather than just hang out?
Well, my favorite thing about Ketchikan is we judge people the way humans should really be judging people. We're all in this together, but the cool thing is you can never really write anybody off in Ketchikan, because they're going to be the guy fixing your boat engine next week.
Yeah, exactly.
There's everybody's judged on your usefulness. If you're useless, people will come and try to help you out and inspire you, but there's only so much of that willing to go around, because you eventually see people get burnt out on that. But the community that we have here, they're so inspiring. And my dad is like the hardest worker I've ever met, and anybody that's ever been around him or worked with him, they've all said it. He's like the hardest working dude. He's super intense. He'll fire you like 10 times because you're not working hard enough. But when I was working construction, it was just the way I feel about my art, that if somebody's standing in the way, it's gonna piss me off from getting my stuff done. So my dad's such an intense dude that translated into my artwork, and so all those things and then with my grandma and my grandfather and my dad, just necessity. Like, whatever you have on hand, just make it work. Just scratch at the door and make it happen. But those little relationships you have along the way that you're building up your business, building up your friendships and all that stuff, it all melds into one when you live in this town. But it's such a unique place to have those relationships. Where down south, once I started, hanging out with some of those people from Boise, I started hearing their stories and stuff, and one of the guys said, he's like, at some point, usually I pull out my phone, he's like, just talking to you, man. It's like I remember, like, he said something along the lines was like, I remember my grandpa and my uncle sitting around and having conversations like this, and then I realized, oh, you don't have this in your life. You only talk to your one friend like this, like where it's, talking, late into the night, but people not realizing how late it is and stuff. And then all of a sudden we get up from the table and you're like, holy crap, it's like 11:30 at night. But yeah, it's, you know, relationships, it's such a cool thing to, you know, to see and be a part of and study, you know, those things. And when it comes to art, the inspiration is, you know, going to be everywhere.
What about artistic influence? There's thousands of artists, there's thousands of writers, there's thousands of people who do these individual crafts. Do you see that as competition, or how do you find your own unique way of doing this? You've been influenced by Rachel, and you've talked with him. So how do you find a unique way of articulating this, and see allies rather than competition, or do you see everyone as competition when it comes to artistry?
Like for me, I don't see the artist as competition, but I see their art as like a form of competition. There's so many times when I look at a design and I go, damn it, I should have thought of that. There's a really good design out there right now, and that I love, but it drives me absolutely nuts because I want my logo to be under the slogan. But there's this piece of herring that's got like a couple little hooks going through it, and it just says like, I'd hit that. And it's it's a really, really awesome design, and I would just love to put my spin on it.
Yeah.
And because I'm just like, man, I could sell a bunch of those things. But then I look at it and I go, I see people all the time, or I meet people all the time that have this $1 million idea for a design or a logo, and the hard part is trying to tell them that if you think it's $1 million design, it's going to cost you $1 million to get $100,000 out of this thing. And so just that competition part of it, where I go, okay, well, let's hear your idea, and I'll see how far I can push it for you. And I hear the idea, and there's been times where I've judged an idea, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's going to work. And then eventually, you know, I try it out. Like my one design I did for my mom was like the Guard Island whale one.
That's
and
cool.
And so she likes whales and she likes islands and stuff, and that was something I just mashed together, and I was like, and now that's like one of my #1 sellers. And so I look at it and I'm like, holy smokes. It's, you know, it just kind of came out of nowhere. But hearing everybody's, you know, ideas of what they want and all that, the inspiration that comes from other artists, there's a little bit of competition there, but it's more about, damn, I wish I would have thought of that, more than like, I want to be better than you. And it's a really nice compliment when people say that, oh yeah, you're going to be the next Ray Troll, and I instantly in my head I was like, yep. I was like, but I want to be completely different.
Yeah.
I want to be standalone. It's just he paved a way for me to walk the path, so I got a little bit easier running start. And the social media part of it, that's what's carried any of my following is that part. And like the art, what Ray did is just insane to think about when you didn't have social media. It was walking by a store or seeing somebody with this t-shirt on and going, like, tracking that down.
Yeah.
It was the beauty before Google was finding a gem. And now the gem you find on Amazon. You find all these things on Amazon. And there's been a couple times where I've been approached to sell things in, you know, Walmart or whatever, and it's just instantly I'm like, is this what I want to be? Is this where I want to go? And I'd like to be able to say someday that, like, you know, this is how I made $1 million. But I really, more than anything, is just like, I want my kids to grow up walking around and seeing my stuff. Yeah. That's what I want to see, and I just don't want to go broke because of it.
Yeah. There's everything. Alaska's so hip right now. You know, the people use the excuse that, though, the market is saturated. There's always Alaska riders, you know, but you have to find your own individual, you know, like you're saying, like yes, it's art, it's Ketchikan, it's Alaska art, but it's unique to you, so people can tell the difference between you and like a Rachel. As far as those big ideas, the Dude Mountain one is fairly new, right?
Yeah, I came up with that one, last, maybe 2 years ago now.
The movie is 20 years old,
yeah.
Right? And Dude Mountain has always been there. Were you surprised at how long it took you to come up with that, or that no one else had, or when that popped in your head, what happened?
So with that design, it was I see what patterns that people follow, and I was looking at what Ray was doing, and everybody's ideas that were coming up to me and saying, well, we should do this one, we should do this one, and you got to hit it at the right time. And right now that's such a cult following. So I'm like, okay, movies that all my friends are doing, or checking out, that's in their DVD collection.
Yeah.
Movies that you fell asleep to.
Yeah.
Movies, that's the stuff that, and nostalgia is where it's at.
There's even movies that people know the references to who haven't actually seen the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah,
they know that character, never seen the movie, but the dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. There's been so many times where they somebody's like, oh yeah, Dude Mountain, and they buy it, and as they're walking away, and I was like, hey, enjoy your White Russian, and they're like, wait, what? And I go, oh, the White Russian, and they're like, I'm not, you must be confusing me with somebody else. And I go, oh God, come back here, get over here. Okay, so there's a movie called The Big Lebowski, and they're like, oh, I've heard of that. That's a bowling movie, right? And I go, no. There's some bowling in it that takes place, and it's funny because I gotta explain it to people, and then it's funny because then you see the hesitation of like, wait, should I have bought this?
Yeah, I didn't get it. Yeah.
I didn't get it, and now I gotta explain it to somebody. I'm gonna give it to somebody. But that's kind of a cool gift that you can give somebody too. Is just like, hey, now I gotta watch this movie. Mm-hmm. And then you're gonna be like, oh, what the hell? Like this is great. Where's it been my whole life? But I love seeing that inspiration. And Ray and I were talking one time about how fast our society moves, and doing art in a society like that is like backbreaking. Mm-hmm. But the designs for the stuff that he's doing, I love the new stuff that keeps coming out. The stuff that he has, it has that feel that like they're timeless. Some of these ones that he's doing right now are mm-hmm. just like timeless. That you're gonna keep wearing that no matter what. Yeah. But every once in a while, you'll see something that somebody jumps on, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million on this, and I'm like, for like a month, like Ray had that one that was the Occupy Wall Street, yeah, and it's just a freaking amazing piece of art, and it just, by the time it got printed, he was done with it and stuff, that huge movement had kind of fizzled off a little bit, and unless you were a part of it and really following it, you had to get that shirt. Yeah, that's what it was about, and luckily there's enough people in the world that were involved in that he can unload those. Yeah, but with what I'm doing with my printing and all that, and having Pacific Printing being my printers and helping those guys get started, it was all about speed kills. Like, we need to make sure that if I post something on Facebook, we can have it printed by morning if we really needed to. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my go-to, and getting that information from Ray and some other artists. It's just Dave Rubin, sitting with Dave Rubin and having those conversations of just like how fast the society is moving. It goes right into that same thing of just like, how do you be the first one to jump on something? Mm-hmm. And then you have the Big Lebowski that sat there for 20 years and nobody touched it. And I was like, I guess I can take this one.
Yeah.
I like mixing up a lot of like what's popular now with Alaska and doing these crossovers. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited about some of the things I'm going to be coming up with, because I have this theme I'm going to go for this summer. And it's just about all of our childhood cartoons experiencing Ketchikan.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that one. I started off with Tina Belcher from Bob's Burgers, the one I posted last night of her as a slime line girl. Mm-hmm. And it says, slashing butts and spilling guts. That's one of those things that like I was laughing at, because I was like, why have I not thought of that slogan ever? I'm like, and that sounds like something on a slime line somebody would say. Yeah. You've been in it for so long. My uncle and my cousins and all those guys, we have all these little terminologies that are just ours. Yeah. When you get a bite, like, getting some fan mail. Yeah. Getting some fan mail. Like, so those are the those are the little things that like make us unique to our area, that we come up with our little terminologies. But yeah.
So you just wake up and see the world through like a pun filter, or do things just kind of come to you later on? There was an event that happened, and then 5 hours later, or when you're trying to sleep. And how do you sleep with that creative mind always going? How do you relax the brain enough to sleep?
You gotta exhaust it. That's why I'm putting out art. I do like 2 pieces a day, and it's just because I know that I need to have like that presence online to stay relevant. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, I got to make sure that I'm getting something out. And I'm always treating, like, I heard it from Rogan once, but like when he's writing, he treats his brain like a house fire. Get it all out and then organize. So it's like, just get out. That's all you got to do. And so I'll get my thoughts out and kind of do stuff, but people don't realize that it's not a the way I'm coming up with these things. It's not a usually a big aha moment. It was you're going fishing, you're going hunting for something, and I try to reverse engineer. And I see how people came to the conclusion on one thing, and then I fill those gaps in, and I go, okay, this is how I need to make that happen. One of the things I started doing was selling some of my art on Instagram by looking at people's names. Like my Slug Life one, I sold a whole bunch of shirts to a company called Slugworth Glass. They're a glass blowing company. But that wouldn't happen if I wouldn't have reverse engineered my design and went, okay, let's look up all the hashtags for this. And then it was, I want to send you a free shirt. And then it turns into that. The other thing, too, is I started, I can see the cruise ships from my front window. And all you have to do is get on Instagram, look up places, look up Ketchikan and the hashtag of, princess or whatever. And you'll see everybody that says, oh, next stop, Ketchikan. Yeah. And then I say, hey, stop by Pacific Pride, go get one of my shirts down there. Nice. We really love you guys. You guys support us. Thank you so much. Tell them this, and you get a discount and all that. So I'm sitting from my front porch, drinking coffee, seeing these people come to town. It's a really cool thing to be living in right now, but keeping the motivation going. But a lot of it's just reverse engineering. I look at a lot of shirts that come from Florida, from Maine, California, Oregon, anybody that's on the coasts. That's what I'm always kind of like hitting at and seeing what everybody else is doing and how to apply it. So a lot of it, one of the things is I found out how to like Google image something, reverse Google image. Mm-hmm. So you just type that in, and then you take an image out of your file on your phone or on an iPad or computer, and you plug it in there, and it'll tell you where it came from. Mm. And so what I did was I started putting my own art in there, knowing that it's not going to be in there. And every once in a while, I'm surprised that somebody has been using it, or it's somewhere. Like the Don't Worship False Alaskans.
Yeah.
It's all over, and people have regurgitated it into something completely different than what I started with. But it's cool because like it says this is what the image might be, and so I took the opportunity to think the might be is an opportunity to sell something.
Yeah.
So I'll put my artwork in there. I see it in there, and there's people that have designs just like mine, and then I start hunting for. Is there fish? Is there hunting? Is there something in there that would resonate with my crew? And I look and I see what they have and where they're at, and I'm like, oh, there's a market for this person, in Maine, and then I go, okay, and then I look up the address of where their store is and how close it is to the water, and all that, and then I start looking at other little trinket stores around them, going like, hey, you want this? You want to check this out? Like my Pull Weeds Every Day, my Snoop Dogg one, that one, I started looking up botanical gardens. I was like, okay, that could be something in one of the storefronts right there. So selling the shirts to those people, it starts with that reverse engineering.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to say that I have all these puns ready to roll, but man, it is sometimes it is just not catching anything for a while. You're just sitting, bobbing, going, damn, I'm dry on this idea. I need help.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time out of your morning here. It's a beautiful day. You got the family waiting. Where can people find you? Where can people order your stuff? What's coming out?
So if you have me on Instagram, that's where it's at. It's Creative Hustler Company on Instagram, and then my Facebook is under Matt Hamilton, Ketchikan. And then my website's creativehustlercompany.com, and like for the shirts and all that good stuff, a lot of my shirts you can buy just from Pacific Pride down there. It used to be Murray Pacific, so those that's where you can get that stuff. I got stickers I just delivered down there, and some hoodies and t-shirts, and yeah, I accidentally made a clothing line.
Stumbled upon it.
Yeah, we were at a party, and that was somebody was like, "Hey, where can I get some of your clothing?" And I was like, "Oh, I get some t-shirts and hoodies, and down here at this store." And my wife's like, "Yeah, his clothing line is really taking off." And I go, "I don't have a clothing line." And she goes, "You have more than one type of shirt, and you have more than one type of hoodie that you're selling." And I was just like, "Well, yeah." She's like, "That's a clothing line." And I'm like, I accidentally created a clothing line. So, Donatello Versace, I guess, of Ketchikan.
Nice.
A little bit less work done. So, yeah, creativehustlercompany.com, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.